I'm Geoff Austin. I live in Peasmarsh now. I'm married to Mary. We have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. I left school at the age of 15 and started a mechanical apprenticeship with the CGB and worked in the power industry all my career. I don't know what you know about power stations, but they produce electricity mainly from converting a fuel to steam, which then drives the turbines, which turns a generator and produces electricity for your homes. I became a fitter, but then progressed to become an engineer and worked at many of the power stations up and down the Thames, some coal-fired, some oil-fired, until in '86, when they were closing the station I was at, I moved down to Dungeness B and got a post there, which moved me to Peasmarsh. Now, Dungeness B is a nuclear power station. It's still got the generator and the steam, which is turbines, but instead of having a boiler using oil or coal, it produces it through a nuclear reaction. Now, I worked on both the nuclear side of the power station and the conventional side, which is the turbines and generators and the associated plant. And eventually, in tail end of the 1990s, I became the engineer in charge of looking after and maintaining the steam turbines at Dungeness B. That was right up until 2001, when I took early retirement, which didn't last that long, only 5 months, because I got a phone call from my ex-boss who asked me if I wanted a few weeks' work. I agreed to this, but one project went on to another, because this was over the Dungeness A power station, until it ceased generating at the end of 2006. And in June of that year, my work come to an end there. The week I actually finished work was the week that, sadly, I lost my little granddaughter due to cancer, and that really hit me hard. In September of that year, which was 2007, I contacted the group that now looked after the turbines, and knowing that they had some major work to do at Dungeness in 2008, I asked if I could be of any assistance. They agreed, and I've worked with them now since then. I helped them by giving them advice and guidance on the overhaul and maintenance of the turbines there. I have a number of interests. I've got a fairly large house, so I get involved with a lot of DIY. Got rather a large garden. It's best part of 2 acres. It takes a lot of upkeep, which unfortunately I've failed to do in recent years. Got a lot of grass. I've got a paddock up the top there. Up to last year, tail end of last year, a neighbour's horse was grazing the paddock for me. But unfortunately now this year we've got to start mowing it. Fortunately I've got a couple of ride-on mowers. One's an old one, which is must be best part of 35 to 40 years old, but I've managed to keep it going, which I use to do the rough work. And we're going to try to keep the paddock down by mowing it this year. We'll have to see how it goes. I might have to get some other animal in to graze it down. But I was hoping by the time I retired that I'd have a nice laid out garden, that I could enjoy a vegetable plot, but unfortunately pressures of other things in the home, like decorating and rebuilding the bathroom and a few other things, have meant that I haven't been able to give much time as I would like out there. People often surprised when they walk down my garden, because they find a few odd cars here and there. I've unfortunately collected them over the years, all with good intention, of course. And I've got a little workshop up there that's not in very good shape now, but I've put them up there to repair it sometime, but never got round to them. I have managed to clear a couple, but there's still some more embedded up there. I enjoy a bit of fishing if I get any spare time, and I'm also heavily involved with Rye Baptist Church. I was brought up in a little town called Erith, which is just towards London from the Dartford Tunnel. And there I spent all my childhood until I got married in 1969. I attended church with the other young people of the church. But by that time I was approaching my middle to late teens. And I think it's right to say that I wasn't really the most self-confident person around of the group. I had noticed that those of my friends that had become Christians had something extra. They had an inward peace and were more confident. And then one day, as I was walking back from a battalion church parade with the captain of the BB company, we started talking about church and becoming a Christian, and he asked me why I shouldn't become a Christian and go through believer's baptism, which I did. I was just over, I think I was 18 when I became a Christian. So yes, I was halfway through my apprenticeship, and it was quite a decision to make, really. One's not always aware how God affects your life being a Christian. It's not often until you look back you can then see how God has moulded your character and made you the person you are. Being a Christian is not always easy. As I've already mentioned, I lost my granddaughter at the age of 3 to cancer, which really hit me hard. Just after Gemma died, my wife was talking to a neighbour, and the neighbour said, can you really believe there's a God if he's allowed this to happen? And my wife's answer was, well, if there wasn't, we would have never got through this. Now, I totally agree with that. Because as I look back on my life, I can see that there are times when God has guided me. There have been paths that I've gone down that, if only I'd taken another route, would have led me into trouble. He's guided me through. He's been with me. It's often difficult to actually put your finger on what he has done for you until you perhaps look back. Now, I think as a family, we've had probably a couple of what we call near misses. Because one example is, last year, on the day of the Shoreham air disaster, me and my family, we were travelling back from Portsmouth, having been on the Isle of Wight for a fortnight. And our normal route would have been past Shoreham Aerodrome. Now, we've been to the Isle of Wight many times, and often we pick up an earlier ferry, but on that occasion we didn't. Because if we had done, it's quite likely that we could have been involved in that very serious incident. Was that just coincidence? Or was it God's guidance and protection? It's always a job to say. My youngest daughter was born with a paralysed palate. We went over to East Grinstead and they recommended that she had an operation to put an implant in. The Sunday before she was due to go in, the church prayed for her. And when we took her over for the operation, I left them there actually. They went in for an x-ray prior to the op, only to find that the pallet had started to move, and they cancelled the operation. Later on we were told that the implants weren't successful, and if she had have had it, she would have had to have it removed again. A year or so later, she went in and actually had the pallet reduced in size by another operation, and that has proved very successful. Again, is that just coincidence, or is it God's healing? A few years ago, on a wet and windy Sunday, we were actually up our caravan up in Essex when we got a phone call from my son who was here to say that a neighbour's trampoline had taken to the air, come across the roof and knocked the annex chimney down, which had gone through the roof and actually damaged the ceiling, which is above us at the moment. Now, if we'd have actually been at home at that time, we would probably have been sitting in this room watching the television. Again, was it coincidence or God's protection? There's many things like that you can't always recall them or know they're happening, but it is there. In your life, once you've accepted Christ, He's there, you can talk to Him, you can bring your cares to Him and your problems, and He guides you through it. And He's there to protect you and help you as well. And that's the types of things that make me stay a Christian. Because without Christ, I don't think I could have got through the many things that have happened in my life. Ryde Baptist Church has always been, and hopefully will continue to be, a very welcoming church, a very friendly church. You know, if you're interested in finding out more about the church, by all means come and pay us a visit. Or if you want a taster, come along on a Thursday between Easter and Christmas, because we have a coffee morning, Coffee Plus, where you can come in and meet some of the folks in the church, and if you ask, you can even have a look around the church, so you're not totally alien to it should you want to come along to a service. If you let Jesus into your life, it answers a lot of questions about the future, but also helps you through the present.